Alexander the Great conquered all the way from Greece to northwestern India. He created an empire which covered more than 5 million square kilometers, and his ambitions were just as big as his conquests. While on his way back from India, he actually had several projects planned for the future. But due to his sudden death in 323 BC, these plans never came to fruition. In this video, I'm gonna cover these 5 projects that Alexander the Great had planned to give us an idea of the vision for the empire he wanted to create. If that sounds good to you, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment on this video. In 323 BC, Alexander returned to Babylon, where he came down with a fever and he suddenly died, causing a lot of confusion and turmoil within his empire. A man named Perdiccas emerged as the marshal of the Macedonian Empire. He was one of the leading figures. He claimed to have the final plans from Alexander the Great, or at least the final thing that he could have written before his death. And these are allegedly to have been recorded in something called the hypomnemata, or notebooks in Greek. And we know about this from a historian called Diodorus. He lived a few centuries after Alexander the Great, but he's the one that mentions Perdiccas, and he mentions the 5 projects which Alexander had planned. Because it's Diodorus Siculus, and because he lived a few centuries after Alexander the Great, we have to be a bit cautious about the accuracy of what he's telling us. But at the same time, once we go through them, you'll see that they aren't so out of the realm of possibility, given what Alexander already managed to accomplish. The first and most important project that Alexander had planned was to construct 1,000 warships for the invasion of Carthage in modern-day Tunisia. This also included invading the Phoenician colonies in the Western Mediterranean, including modern-day Libya, Sicily, and the Iberian Peninsula. Not only did he want to attack Carthage, but he also wanted to build a new road connecting Asia to the Pillars of Hercules, which is said to have been in the southern tip of Iberia. So this road he wanted to construct would have gone all the way across North Africa, and along the way he wanted to build many port cities to support and give life to this new highway. Carthage was the biggest superpower in the Mediterranean at that time. Rome still was a small city and was by no means any competition to Alexander's empire or the Carthaginians for that matter. Of course that would change, give it 100 more years and that would all change. But at the time, Carthage was the only competitor, and so it makes sense that Alexander had his eyes on, this other massive empire after taking down, the Persian Empire. And not only that, not only did he want to invade Carthage, before that he had plans to take over parts of Arabia, parts of the Persian Gulf states, pre-Islamic Arab states, which had great trade networks. And before he died, he had already began the preparations to take over these cities. The second project that he had in mind was to construct temples, massive temples. For example, it is said that he wanted to build one temple dedicated to Zeus at a place called Dium, which is located at the base of Mount Olympus, and it was a very sacred place for the ancient Macedonians. He also wanted to construct another temple at Troy dedicated to the goddess Athena, and it's said that he wanted this temple to be so big that it would never be exceeded by any other temple. The third project that he had in mind was to construct a massive pyre in Babylon dedicated to his late friend and companion Hephaestion, who died a few years earlier at Ecbatana. Even though he was already given a lavish funeral, Alexander was so fond of him that he even wanted to construct a pyre to him in Babylon. After that, the fourth project Diodorus tells us about is to construct a pyramid in honor of his father Philip, and it said that he wanted this pyramid to be just as big as the rest of the Great Pyramids of Egypt. And if that was built, it would have definitely been one of the ancient wonders of the world. The last and final project that Diodorus tells us about is that Alexander wanted to transfer populations between Europe and Asia. He wanted to create new cities by merging the populations of villages together, but specifically mentioning that he wanted to blend European and Asian populations together in new cities, similar to what happened in Alexandria, where you had many Greek colonists showing up and merging with the local Egyptian population. He doesn't mention exactly where these cities would be or what they would be named, but he mentions this as a project that Alexander had in mind. Whatever you make of the authenticity or realism of these plans, I'm gonna leave you with a quote from Arrian, who kind of sums up what he believes Alexander's ambitions were. So our good friend Arrian the historian, he tells us this quote: "For my part, I cannot determine with certainty what sort of plans Alexander had in mind, and I do not care to make guesses. But I can say one thing without fear of contradiction, and that is that none was small and petty, and he would not have stopped conquering, even if he'd added Europe to Asia and the Britannic Islands to Europe. On the contrary, he would have continued to seek beyond them for unknown lands, as it was ever in his nature, if he had no rival, to strive to better the best."